Globally, people have mastered the skill of ignoring black issues. And this is not only in America or Western world, I think it's globally. Hear me out. Congo is predominantly black people. They're going through a genocide, a silent genocide, and have been for the longest time. We have Sudan, more than 8 million to be precise, have been displaced by you. You're not going to hear about it. You're not going to see people protest for Sudan. We have Haiti. Haiti is going through crisis right now. How many people are they protesting and trying to stop what's happening in Haiti? None. So when I say that globally people have mastered the skill of ignoring black crisis, but yet somehow benefit culturally from blackness, it amazes me. It amazes me. I have seen marches about other issues. I have not yet seen a lot of Congo, Haiti, or Sudan. And what does those three places have in common? Blackness.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Intervlog. I say this is Intervlog, and I am here once more. I am here because there is one information I brought to you today. And this information is unbelievable. I say it is unbelievable. And you would wonder, why am I saying unbelievable twice? Well, because what I have for you today will marvel you. And that thing is about Burkina Faso. The United Nations has sent an envoy to Burkina Faso to know how United Nations can help Burkina Faso over the misunderstanding they are having with ECOWAS and African Union. The envoy was sent through Abdoulaye Madia. Abdoulaye Mardié is a Senegalese economist and public servant who has been serving as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres' Special Coordinator for Development in the Sahel since 2021. He previously held various positions within the United Nations Development Program. But the main importance of this information is what Burkina Faso replied to the United Nations. The Burkina Faso replied that they are not only abandoning ECOWAS, but they are also ready to abandon both African Union and United Nations if what they are asking for is not done. And what is that they are asking for? What they are asking for is to be free from neo-colonization, or neo-colonialism. For some of you who do not know what neo-colonialism is the control by a state, usually a former colonial power, over another nominally independent state, usually a former colony, through indirect means. Neo-colonialism was first used after World War II to refer to the continuing dependence of former colonies on foreign countries. But its meaning soon broadened to apply more generally to places where the power of developed countries was used to produce a colonial-like exploitation. Neo-colonialism takes the form of economic imperialism, globalization, cultural imperialism, and conditional aid to influence or control a developing country instead of the previous colonial methods of direct military control or indirect political control. So they say that they want to be free from neo-colonialism, that if that would cause them to abandon both United Nations and African Union, they are ready. We reject the neo-colonial vision. Prime Minister Dr. Apollinaire Joachimson Kyelem de Tambela received an audience in Ouagadougou, the regional directors of the United Nations, while staying in the space of the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. They reported to him on the discussions held with the members of the government of Burkina Faso and received his orientations. We came, accompanied by the regional directors of the United Nations system agencies, to have discussions with the national authorities, other development partners, civil society, and youth to see how the United Nations support in the country is well positioned, declared, upon leaving the audience, the Special Coordinator for Development in the Sahel, Abdoulaye Mardié. Mandated by the Secretary General of the United Nations, Abdoulaye Mardié affirmed that the United Nations system aligns its programs with the country's development strategies. He also specified that from discussions with members of the government of Burkina Faso, 3 integrated programs were selected, which will be scaled up. The first, at the request of the government, is to work on security, humanitarian, and development issues. The second is everything related to stabilization and investments in border and cross-border regions because we are in the AES area. And the third program concerns the agricultural system, he said, and he continued, I believe that minds are moving in the right direction of constructive engagement. The Secretary General of the United Nations asked us to come and listen, especially to the authorities and also to the actors, and to see how the United Nations system can position itself to support you. We have had excellent guidance. Disinformation is a topic that was discussed during the discussions. The Special Coordinator for Development in the Sahel hoped that the United Nations and the AES countries would work in tandem to effectively combat disinformation. I would like to congratulate the initiative of the Patriotic Support Fund, FSP. I know that your goal is to reach 100 billion CFA francs, and that to date, 86 billion CFA francs have been mobilized. It is powerful. These are the kinds of messages that we must publish so that everyone feels that we are going in the right direction, he noted. For his part, the Prime Minister, Dr. Apollinaire Kayelem de Tambela, was delighted that the United Nations system was part of the vision initiated by the Sahel states, of which Burkina Faso is a part. He was nevertheless surprised to see that the United Nations had issued a statement incriminating the defense and security forces engaged in the fight against the Hydra, accusing them of civilian abuses. Since 2015 that been here, not once has the Secretary General made a statement of compassion. How can an army that we put in place to protect our citizens still attack the same citizens? He noted. This meeting was an opportunity for the head of government to recall and condemn neo-colonialism. What we reject is the neo-colonial vision. That is why we left ECOWAS, and yet we all created ECOWAS. Before leaving ECOWAS, I even said that our countries existed before ECOWAS, so our countries can live without ECOWAS. We are observing the African Union. If it behaves like ECOWAS, we will leave it, and even the UN is not excluded, he said. And the Prime Minister added that, we lived before colonization without any connection with the West, and we lived well. A country like Thailand was never colonized. A country like Ethiopia was never colonized, but they live well. On the contrary, it is the Westerners who came to drag us into labyrinths from which we cannot escape. It is to always keep us under the extinguisher. According to him, there is nothing that will stop Burkina Faso in its fight for the preservation of its territorial integrity and for its development. Whoever does not see himself in this perspective, we cannot collaborate together. Those who want to go in our direction, we agree, because after all, it is in the interest of our country, he said. Before affirming that it could be that soon we will leave the financial institutions to evolve according to our own means. Since 1960, we have been talking about aid, and we have not evolved. We have not moved. We need to question things. We talk about development aid, cooperation aid, and we have not moved forward since 1960. We need to question this form of aid, he explained. After listening to this news, I began to praise Ibrahim Traore, General Atiani, and Assimi Gorda. And you would ask me why? Because this is the first time African leaders have come up to speak their mind. No African leader has ever talked about abandoning ECOWAS, United Nation, and Africa Union because of new colonialism. Therefore, these people have done unbelievable and have to be praised for the work they did. Now, after listening to this news, what do you think about the plan of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic of abandoning United Nation? Do you think it's a good idea? You have listened to what they said. Do you think their reason is enough to abandon United Nation and Africa Union? Put it down on the comment session because this problem of Sahel is getting tougher than nobody expected. Nobody expected that their target is even to abandon United Nation if their dream is not achieved. Thank you very much for watching. This is Intervlog. Tell me what you feel about Sahel Alliance abandoning AU and United Nation. Thank you very much. This is in the vlog. See you on comment section.
Stars who promised to flee the U.S. if Trump was elected. 1. Samuel L. Jackson says if Trump becomes president, I'll move my black ass to South Africa. 2. Rapper Snoop Dogg posted a photo of Toronto's national TV tower on INs and asked Drake, a native Canadian, for some real estate advice. 3. Whoopi Goldberg criticized Trump's rhetoric and policies for exacerbating racial divisions, especially his comments about immigrants and minorities. She emphasized that no child should be afraid because their parents are Muslim, Mexican, or blacks. Raven Simonet says, my confession about this election is that if any Republican gets the nomination, I will move to Canada with my entire family. I already have the bills. 5. Sarah Silverman tweeted a call for a military coup against Trump, calling him the Mad King, and called for resistance to his administration. 6. Amy Schumer, my behavior will change. Because I need to learn to speak Spanish, I'll move to Spain or somewhere else if Trump is elected president. 7. Miley Cyrus publicly supports the Democratic Party. She urged voters on social media and in public not to support Trump.
Is this a coincidence? Tree stump. Fingerprints. Tree branch. Human lungs. Leaf veins. Human veins. Tree of life. Human placenta. Grass. Human hair. Tree roots. Human veins. River network. Human veins. Tree roots. Human nervous system. Thorn plant. Human spine.
How can a girl have 4 boyfriends, 3 boyfriends, and say because she's beautiful? No, it is a cheap commodity that everybody can afford. You are not beautiful. You are cheap. That is why everybody can afford you. Do you know the prestige, the pride of a woman? That people are harassing you, yet you say no. People are coming, you say no. You may have no money, but you are expensive. Your friends may have everything, but the fact you say no, you are expensive. Am I communicating here? It doesn't matter how many times they come, the pressure. When you put your foot down and say, well, you may do this and you have houses, you may do this and you have cars, but I'm not going to do that. No, you are expensive. So you attract your kind. That's why you must.
I'm really worried. For the first time in many years, I'm really worried. I'm concerned about what's happening here in the UK with violence erupting all over the place. Some of the antics being perpetrated on the populace, and that effigy of Nigel Farage in some gay celebration down in the West Country. Shame on you, by the way. That's an appalling thing to do, and you are a disgrace. And I could care less whether you're gay or straight or whatever. That is not acceptable behaviour. And what happened at Manchester Airport was appalling on both sides. We don't know who started it. Of course, both sides will have their own opinions. But whatever it is, it's to do with religion. And here we are in the UK with people running around defacing our property, screaming Allahu Akbar at the drop of a hat, and defacing our shrines and our memorials that we fought so hard to give to everybody, the right to protest. You have the right to protest, and you come over here and now you abuse us. I find it quite extraordinary, and I don't know what the answer is. And I saw this morning reading and watching online what's happening in France just prior to the opening of the Olympic Games. My God, how pathetic. We have people burning the tracks so that the trains can't run. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people will now be affected for the weekend. And of course, it's the opening ceremony tonight. I just find it quite extraordinary, and I hope they find the perpetrators, and I'm sure the French authorities will punish them with the full force of the law. But whatever it is, where is it coming? Is it coming from Russia, who are banned from the Olympics but going in under a neutral flag or some bloody thing? I don't know, but it's the Olympic Games, for God's sake. But is it political? Of course it's political. It's been political almost since day one. And we've already got scandals from the Canadian team with drones being flown over the... well, you've all seen it. And that Dujardin, whatever her name was, that equestrian rider, caught, whipping the poor horse that she was training. What a disgusting individual. But, a lot of that goes on when training horses. We don't even see it because it's not a new thing. And those people in the horse business know what's going on. The cruelty against animals is appalling, and our system here is very lax. If that was in America, she could go to jail or certainly have massive fines. But here we're very lax, and we've got to tighten them up. Cruelty to animals, as I've said before, is one of the things that really makes me so fucking angry. And cruelty to children and to old people and to women, regardless, it's just absolutely unacceptable behaviour. And we have got to do something, because I tell you what, it's a very serious situation we face in the UK. Never mind America, where they've got, two incumbents that possibly will be the new presidents, Harris and Trump, neither of which, exactly stir the juices of anybody, although apparently they do. And I'm very worried about that. Who will be the next president of the United States, the world's most powerful nation? And, we rely on them so much. And I am very, very concerned. And the left-wing media, of course, controls everything in America, and as it does here. I don't know why the left-wing is so powerful. Listening to the BBC last night, I couldn't do it. I had to switch it off on the radio, going on about Gaza and just generally and bad-mouthing Trump and almost celebrating that Harris is going to be the new president. I don't know what to say about the BBC. If you pay a licence fee, you expect to get something decent, and it's expensive, far more expensive than Netflix or Amazon Prime or Paramount Plus or whatever the hell you're subscribing to. And we get the rubbish they churn out all the time, and those left-wing dreadful presenters, and that Gary Lineker earning £1.35 million a year, the left-wing. What a pillock. And all you football fans probably love him, but I think he's a disgrace, and mouthing off about things. Rich celebrities should shut up. We don't want to hear from them. We don't want to hear from Hollywood's elite who get paid $10 million or $15 million for films that mostly these days are unwatchable, and they go on about, and nearly all of them are left-wing Democrats or supporters of the bloody Labour Party. I don't understand it. I am at a complete loss. Please explain to me. I've lived for over 8 decades, and I've seen it all. And I'm worried about the world today, and we have got a very serious situation, both economically and militarily worldwide. Unless we do something about it, we are in deep shit. Trust me. And the Labour Party, I don't know what to say. I've said it so many times. I told you what to expect, and it'll happen. And they're coming after us, Governor. They're coming after us. And today's Friday, by the way, and sorry about my appearance, but I was very busy this morning. And to top it all, the dog puked all over the bed last night, twice. What joy, but I love him to bits.
Gaddafi gang, breaking news. The West The West has a problem. Now, I know y'all thought I wasn't going to show up. But, baby, just know that everything's slowing down. And I've been working behind the scenes, okay? And I ran over here just to give y'all some information, okay? I know y'all thought I wasn't showing up today. But, baby, strap yourself in. Get your popcorn. Because it's going to be one of them videos that you don't want to miss. Without further ado, let's get started. Israel's giving up. Israel, Chalzonia, whatever you want to call it, baby, they giving up. As you can see, the generals, the top ranking generals are seeking a truce with Hamas because they don't have any ammunition. So what does that mean? I was right this entire time. I was right. I told y'all. Didn't I tell y'all? Y'all know I love to say it. So y'all know what I'm about to say? 1, 2. Didn't I tell y'all Nichols? I told y'all Nichols, they was out of ammunition. They was out of artillery. All that. They ain't got none. They said, listen, can we talk this out for a second? Can we chit chat? Can I rap with you right quick? Okay? I just wanna chit chat. I just want to talk it out. Let's talk about it. Israel's military leadership wants a ceasefire with Hamas in case a bigger war breaks out in Lebanon. Security officials say, okay? So it is concluded that a truce would be the fastest way to free the hostages. Now, just to put things into perspective, Israel's prisons only has the capacity to hold over 14,000 hostages. So roughly about 14,700 people in said prison. There's currently over 21,500 hostages, innocent Palestinian hostages, alongside people of several other descent. Okay, some of their own people are in there, and that prison is full of 21,500 people. There's no way, shape, or form that you could prove to us that y'all actually have been following international law, because your own prisons is showing that you have done the exact opposite of that. Everything that y'all have done has been inhumane, disgusting. Animals aren't even treated that way. And y'all treated humans like that. Palestinians, innocent civilians that did not want or have a problem with you. And now you want mercy? All I have to say is it's in Allah's hands, and may Allah, have mercy on your soul. I don't, that's up to him, okay? That's up to him. I'm not the one that you need to be asking for forgiveness for. Honestly, I don't even think Hamas and the Palestinians as the ones that you should be asking not prisons, but forgiveness from. I believe it's Allah. That's only if Allah's still taking y'all calls, because he might have y'all blocked. So let's get into this further. Israel's military leadership wants a ceasefire with Hamas in case a bigger war breaks out in Lebanon, as we just spoke about a couple seconds ago. It's the fastest way to free the hostages. I don't think they actually plan on freeing the hostages. I think that they're going to try and get them as close as they can to a ceasefire deal. And they're going to wait some time even after things are signed before they actually let those hostages go. Mind you, Hamas only has 120 hostages. 120. They only have 120 hostages. And you have 21,500. Child. Israel's top generals want to start a ceasefire in Gaza, even if it means Hamas stays in power for now. Baby, you don't have a say. That's the thing. I think that y'all forgot that y'all don't have a say. You lost. That's how that worked. You lost. And we've known that you've lost for 3 months now. Beyond that, we've known since January that this wasn't going to go in your favor. But I digress. This is causing a rift between the military and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who opposes a truce that would let Hamas continue to exist. Under-equipped for further fighting after Israel's longest war in decades, the generals also think that forces need to recuperate. You cannot call timeout in a fight. That's not how that works. My God, today, y'all not in your word, and that's why y'all like this. You cannot call timeout in a fight. If you in the middle of a fight, you got to get your ass whooped. If you getting your ass whooped, you just getting your ass whooped, baby. Take your L, go home, practice, Teach your niggas how to squabble as well, and then come back and try it again some other time. But calling a timeout in the middle of a fight for a smoke break and recuperation is crazy. Insane. Be so fucking for real, Israel. Please, if you want to be anything, let's keep going, because this is pissed me off. They said to recuperate in case a land war breaks out against Hezbollah. First of all, Hezbollah said they didn't want no smoke with y'all. They said they didn't want no smoke with y'all. All they was doing was protecting the Palestinians. You took it personally. You got mad at them for standing on the Palestinian side and attempted to kill Nasrallah's grandson and went to Beirut and bombed one of the high-ranking officials of Hamas and Hezbollah. You caused the issues that you're in. The problem is in the room. The call is coming from inside of the house. Israel, y'all the reason why y'all in this situation. Talking about in case a ground invasion happens, it's happening. We begged y'all for 5 months not to take it there with Nasrallah. There's a reason why he's at the top. How many times we had to say, there's a reason why Nasrallah is at the top of the terrorist list. We've said it so many times. We've given y'all all types of proof. Y'all let y'all arrogance and y'all egos lead y'all directly into destruction. And now that you on the cusp of catching a fade, not just a fade, but getting your shit peeled to the back, you and all your fofos, all of a sudden you want to say time out. No, that's not how that work. That's not how that work. You have killed thousands, tens of thousands of Palestinians, martyred them. That's not how that work. Hamas, I hope and pray that y'all don't agree. I hope and pray that y'all do not agree and that y'all move forward with taking back all of Palestine. Land back initiative, period. Get them up out of Palestine for good, because you don't belong there in the first place. You started this shit and now you can't finish it. And now you shaking in your boots and you scared because even America is scared of Nasrallah. And you decided you want to start some beef with one of America's biggest ops that got hands? And now you mad? Because you couldn't even so much as beat their little cousins? Child, please. The Lebanese militia that has been locked in low-level fight with Israel since October. It's been low-level, but they've been whooping y'all ass. Multiple officials said, no, you're scared because you saw thousands of Lebanese descents that are of different nationalities hop on a plane, hop on the first thing smoking, because they said, now you talking my language. I likes that. I likes the tussle. That's all we needed to hear, was that you wanted to tussle with Lebanon. I'm on the way. Me and all my niggas is coming. And we want some smoke. We want to see what you rapping about. I don't give a damn I'm not a part of the Islamic resistance. If I'm Lebanese, I'm on the way. All them thousands of soldiers, all them thousands of people volunteering to be a part of Lebanon, Iraq, the Taliban, all of them volunteering to help Lebanon out. The entire Islamic resistance stood up and said, I dare you. I dare you. I jump the shit out you. I dare you. You get your shit split quick. You and all your homies can catch these hands for real. And now y'all scared. Now ain't the time for you to be scared. You were warned so many times, my love. The more you fuck around, the more you find out. And now you're heading directly into the find out phase, because you done fucked around for 9 months straight. And now you trying to call a timeout. That's that's not how that gonna work. I don't even think that Hezbollah would even want a timeout with you or Hamas. Y'all done played in Hamas face for 9 months straight. I don't think it's going to happen, Captain. I don't think it's going to happen, but I digress. I can be hopeful. A truce with Hamas could also make it easier to reach a deal with Hezbollah. No, it ain't. No. Where were you when Nasrallah, after you bombed Beirut and Nasrallah said, now it's my problem, and then a couple weeks later, you attempted to kill his grandson, and he let you know to your face that ass is grass. Ain't gonna be no truce. I don't squash no beef. I need your ass up out of here ASAP. I'm coming after you, and when I find you, you better hope I don't find you. Period. Okay, so we're gonna go over this next section in the next video. Let me know what y'all think so far, and stay tuned for the next video. It's coming up real soon.
Look, I don't care what you say, right? If somebody comes for my children and I know I'm innocent, I am going to riot like flipping crazy. I'm not going to sit down and take it, because that's the trouble you've got with the authorities these days. You sit down, you take it, you will get squashed. Once your kid is gone and is in that system, you can forget it. What the hell is going on in the UK? The authorities have gone to pot. The police and the social services, guys, learn about the stories that are happening. Megan Doherty is the most recent one. 2 days ago, she went to the GP. Let me just go a quick overview of her story, right? Simple, simple, simple. You guys are saying, oh, they don't just come in and take your kids. They do. And I wasn't playing any brown cards or Muslim cards. I was supporting humanity and the people. Megan Doherty, she's white, right? The social services and the police went into her house. They arrested the mother. They took that girl screaming out of her house. Megan is autistic. She is nonverbal. She spoke. And if that doesn't chill you right now and give you goosebumps, then you need to move on, because you're not human. Megan Doherty's name needs to be heard. The Romanians' words need to be heard. Their voice needs to be heard. And everyone else out there who has been... These injustices keep on happening all the time. So let's share them and make sure everyone knows. I told you about the other girl whose daughter was taken away from her. Yes, they do just do that. Though they don't just do that, they are brutal with it. You saw the injustice with that guy who was kicked in the face in Manchester Airport. What I'm saying is, and I told you, this is the new norm and you guys have got to get used to it. I don't, because I'm out of here and I'll come back for a holiday. But no authority is there above me anymore, because I've taken that control back myself. Inshallah, I pray that Allah keeps me there. And inshallah, I pray that Allah gives you guys the ability to do the same. Do hijrah. That's my advice. Do it now before it's too late. Megan Doherty is an autistic child, aged 18. She has been put into a psychiatric hospital and is currently covered in bruises because of the mishandling. And her mother has been accused of neglect. Why? Because this caring mother went to the doctors and said that she wanted an NG tube for her daughter who was losing weight. Why would she go to the doctor? The doctors, they reported it. And the social services and the police all went round and they pressed her mother's face down and handcuffed her. Simply because she tried to pacify her daughter who was screaming and had hidden in the bathroom. The mother went in. She pushed the door closed. They're not going anywhere. They broke in. They took the mother, slammed her down on the bed and they handcuffed her. And meanwhile, the mother was listening to her daughter's screams that she states will haunt her for the rest of her life, and the damage they're doing to that mother and the damage they have done to that child. Guys, please stand together, support one another. This is us. This is us. And it's not us against them, because I know that there are good police and there are good social services and doctors and everyone, but they're just going too far, and they're going too far because they've been given these powers. And as I said before, 90% of the cases aren't even guilty. And the 10% that are guilty are the ones where the children are given back. The system is flawed. We all have to stand together. We all have to fight. Share this, please. Let's share Megan's name. Let's share the Romanians and their children. Give them their kids back. Expedite the process. Stop torturing, traumatizing, and damaging these people. Get it through as quick as you can. That's all we're asking for. So you have to make the noise, and you have to raise awareness, and you have to stop defending what is wrong and assuming that the police wouldn't just go. Because if you feel and you think that, then you're living in another freaking cloud, in another zone, because until it comes and slaps you in the face when it's your turn, then you're going to believe it. Share Megan Doherty. Share the Romanians. Share this other girl's story. Share the story as much as you can about the brutality that the police in Manchester did against that guy at the airport. It has to stop. It needs to be Something has to happen, guys, because think about this, right? In America, it happens, and somebody goes to jail, but the purpose of the exercise is for you to realize that there is an authority, and the authority is clamping down heavy, very, very heavily. And don't think that it's unintentional or it's one bad egg that's ruining the whole basket. It's not, because if you've got one bad egg, the whole of them are in it together. They're in the same basket. Get me?
Today, I want to come with a very important message to you as Africans. So recently, we saw the Kenyan kids protesting the increasing of taxes in order to pay the IMF. And these kids were mad because they're saying that they cannot survive. Their parents cannot survive. And that's why they want to fight these taxes. They fought so vociferously. They risked their lives, sacrificed their lives. They even got killed in order to reduce these taxes because they want more paper money in their hands. Now, trust me, I've been to Kenya. I've been to Dandora. I've been to Kibera. I have seen the slums and how most people in Kenya live. But what I want you to understand is that they were vociferous on an issue to do with paper money, but they forgot the most important thing just 6 months ago when the government introduced GMOs into the country. Now, you need to understand that, yes, the tax issue is a problem. For a country to be milking its people in order to pay the IMF, that's slavery. But trust me, that is not compared to what it is that the issue of seeds is. This resource, seeds, is the most important resource in the world. It is the most important resource to humanity, animals, and life. Water, food are the most important things because when you have those, you can survive. But what happened in Kenya 6 months ago is they allowed the introduction of genetically modified seeds for cotton and maize. What the Kenyan people and these Kenyan youth did not understand is that their government had just signed them into food slavery and into death. They also didn't understand that the government had signed them up for a biological warfare together with a chemical warfare, because the chemicals that go with these GMOs are ones that cause cancer. And if you look at the cancer index, the countries with the highest cancer rate and the highest cancer death rate in Africa, Kenya comes number 4 after Zimbabwe, that eats GMOs from South Africa that are laced with glyphosate that goes hand in hand with the GMOs. Second is South Africa, followed by Malawi, and then Kenya. I have actually ignored the Union Republic that comes tops, but their death rate is lower than the 4 countries that are spoken about. Now, the Union Republic, you know who colonized the Union Republic. Those people kill Africans. You know this. So the fact that the Kenyan children did not find it important to rise up when they were being put into food slavery by GMOs, that when you plant it this season, you cannot replant it next season because it has a genetic use restriction technology. And when we were listening to the Kenyans trying to convince young Kenyans, as Kenyan scientists, Kenyan business people and government officials, they said that there is nothing called genetic use restriction technology. They were lying. I am currently undertaking a court case in South Africa against a company called Insco that also is present in Kenya as a fast food outlet called Simbisa Brands that has got chicken in, creamy in, bakers in. That company, I took their food for tests here in South Africa together with France and Italy, and their food and GMOs came up positive for the NOS terminator gene. So the Kenyan scientists were lying to Kenyans when they said that the seeds will not terminate, will not become sterile, and people in Kenya will be able to regrow these GMOs. It was a lie. And I'm saying, so you African children in Kenya, in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, wherever you are, if you're not worried about your seeds, if you're not worried about how you're going to produce food tomorrow, what happens when you become captives of the companies like Monsanto, Bayer Monsanto, Syngenta, DuPont, when they stop giving your country seeds, as they stopped giving parts and loans to Zimbabwe during sanctions? What will you do? What will you do in South Africa right now if the South African government had not gone into a GNU with the DA and the Americans decided to put them under sanctions? Where would they get seeds when 90% of their food is produced by GMOs and seeds that are owned by Monsanto and other biotech companies from America? Besides that, these GMOs are known to be engineered to actually have ethnic diseases. Hence, you will see that there's a current study in America that was talking about the increase of diseases with the use of GMOs and glyphosate. They say that there's an increase in every single chronic disease ever since they introduced GMOs and glyphosate. This is scientific evidence that these GMOs are dangerous. Now, I am fighting, like I said, in court in South Africa. This company called Insco, owned by a Greek gentleman in Zimbabwe, came to South African courts to try and shut me up through the courts. They left Zimbabwean courts where they are selling the illegal GMOs. It's illegal to sell GMOs in Zimbabwe without government approval. They're selling these GMOs that are filled with glyphosate, came to South African courts. They know they're breaking the law in Zimbabwe, and they tried to use the South African courts to silence me. But why did they come to the South African courts? They believe that because the South African courts are manned by white people, the white people will have a vested interest to shut me up so that we as Africans can again be put under food slavery. The same thing you're fighting in Kenya. You're fighting against debt slavery, but debt slavery is nothing compared to food slavery. And when they came to the South African courts, we have been able to stop them from shutting me up, from whistleblowing. But while I'm fighting them, the lawyers that I was using were approached. My first lawyer, my first advocate was approached, and he began to give evidence against me to this big company, because this company is huge. Not only that, they have now gone to my second set of lawyers, who were Edward Nathan Sonnenbergs, and they have presented, they got a group of women to present something that I said on, they said I said on social media, and then that was the reason why this company called Edward Nathan Sonnenbergs has withdrawn its service from me. What I said was not illegal. It should be protected by free speech. But remember, Edward Nathan Sonnenbergs and most of the law firms in this country are not African. They are not here to serve our interest. So they would deny me services, legal services, yet they represent EOH. EOH is a company that was implicated in state capture and getting billions out of some of the shady deals that happened there, and they ended up paying a penalty. They represent people that were involved in Marikana, people who were involved in the deaths of people during Marikana. They represent those. They represent South African banks that deny and discriminate against black people and actually do not give them loans at the same price as white people. This law firm has got no problem representing those people. Apartheid criminals have representation in South Africa, but they will cancel me for an allegation that I said something distasteful, not illegal, on social media. This goes to show you that this fight we're fighting is not our fight. I mean, this goes to show you that this fight that we're fighting is a very big fight, and we're all on our own. The other races are united in our destruction. The other races don't care. This is why this law firm would deny me services to actually stop a company from feeding Zimbabweans illegal GMOs and causing the pandemic of cancer that is in Zimbabwe. They will go and take sides with that company instead of protecting the women and children. And it is women who are the biggest victims of these GMOs in Zimbabwe. They're the ones dying from cervical cancer. They're the ones that are dying from breast cancer and other cancers. And this company let me go under threat by a Twitter women's group that said that they will protest if they did not stop giving me services. It's clear that the company that I'm fighting, that wants to continue to have the right to sell illegal GMOs and toxic foods to our people, it's a biological, chemical, and economic war. And you as Africans have got to start thinking about it. And I challenge you in South Africa, people like EFF, you want land, but the land is being poisoned by chemicals that need to grow with these GMOs. These GMOs are not natural. They grow with chemicals because they're not adapted to the soils, they're not adapted to the environment. And so therefore your soils are being destroyed, the bacteria in the soil is dying, the worms that are in the soil are being killed. You depend on fertilizers. The more fertilizers you put, the more it kills your soil, the more it poisons your water. The two essential things that you need for life, water and seeds, are being destroyed. And then one day you get the land. The water is toxic. The land is toxic and it cannot grow anything because it has no living organisms in it anymore. And then you don't have the seeds. What's the point of taking land when you don't have seeds? These are things we need to grasp ourselves with now. Otherwise, you are running the risk of doing exactly what our ancestors did when they sold their enemies into slavery, not realizing that by selling your soldiers of your enemies, the soldiers of your people, into slavery, one day you'll be so weak that you can be colonized and enslaved on your own continent. We're repeating that. And many of you hear me talking about these seeds, you don't care. This is millet. These are the most valuable resources, more valuable than gold and diamonds, more valuable than platinum, more valuable than iridium. It's these seeds. Because with this, you can feed yourself. Even if you don't have a job, even if you don't have money in your pocket, if you've got seed to put in the soil and harvest, you have food. If you've got clean water, you'll have water to drink, you will live, you will survive. Even if you don't have shelter, water and food are the only things you need for humanity, not paper money. And these seeds, these are millet seeds, traditional grasses that we used to grow back in the days. These now you're hearing Bill Gates is starting to look at millets, wants to turn them into GMOs and wants to turn them into hybrids. These were the seeds that kept our ancestors and gave them health. Their immunity was the strongest immunity. That's why we as Africans were taken as slaves, because we were so strong. Now we are destroying these foods that we were supposed to be eating. We are allowing Bill Gates to come onto our continent and to destroy them, and we're not protecting them. And our leaders have become sellouts. They are the ones allowing these GMOs and hybrids so that they make their citizens captives of receiving seeds every single month. But what our leaders are doing is exactly like what our ancestors did, is to sell our own people into slavery. But let me tell you, the moment you don't have any more seeds on your continent, you'll be like Europe, where tomato seeds now cost $60,000 for a kg, up to $400,000 for a kg. They allowed that to happen by allowing hybridization of their seeds, but they've got money. They've stolen from Africa so they can afford it. But can you in Africa afford seeds that cost more than a kg of gold? This is the most important resource, and every government should make this a priority to look after these things, particularly the traditional ones. Mung beans, another tradition from Africa. All these beans, this is what we used to eat. And I want to challenge you, Africans, to say stop protesting over stupid things and stop following these Gucci revolutionaries who don't understand what you need to do to survive for your tomorrow. Now, hashtag no to GMOs. Hashtag David versus Goliath. For those of you who want to follow my fight against INSCO, it's INSCO versus Rutendo. Let's unite. Let's fight these GMOs for our survival. Yeah, let me check.
This is Shahid Balson, and he's going to explain to you the current state of Western hegemony.
Their racism, their bigotry, and their supremacism made them think that our people were stupid, that our people were lazy, that our people were uninformed and clueless. They thought we didn't know what's going on in the world. They really thought that we were all brainwashed. They thought, just like a white slave owner in the American South, when a slave would smile at him, he actually thought that it meant he was happy and content with his situation. They thought that we were satisfied being subordinate and being exploited. They thought that we're all primitive and simple-minded and just accepted our servitude to the West as just some part of just some sort of a natural order. That's really how they think. They're so convinced of their own supremacy that they genuinely think that everyone else is inferior and deficient. They think we don't know how the world has changed. And they think that we are unaware of the fact that the West is running on fumes at this point. But the oppressed know their oppressor better than the oppressor knows himself. And the fact is, it's impossible for the oppressor to ever really understand those whom he is oppressing, because from the outset, he has to lie to himself about the oppressed anyway. He has to himself believe in a lie of his own creation about those whom he is oppressing, just so he can justify oppressing them. But the oppressed know their oppressor very, very well, intimately well. And we can see that you aren't what you used to be. We can smell it. We can sense it. We know when you're acting, and we know when you're being real, and you're doing nothing but act at this point. You're doing nothing but try to evoke your heyday. but you're just a shadow of your former self and everybody knows it. And yes, even your old partners, your old gang, all your previous lackeys are turning away from you, and they're coming to us to cut deals. The only one in the dark here is you. The only one who doesn't really understand what's going on is you. I'm telling you, the next 50 years are going to be drastically different than the last 50 years. And no one is even going to believe 50 years from now that America and Europe were ever treated like the center of the world. People are going to shake their heads in disbelief that something as repugnant and as stupid as Zionism was ever taken seriously and was ever allowed to wreak havoc on the Middle East. No one's going to be able to wrap their heads around the fact that you people presided over such a deranged global order that it made the most resource-rich and most important countries on the planet the poorest and most oppressed countries in the world. That's your system. And you have the gall to call it civilized. You have the gall to call yourselves advocates of justice and fairness and equality and human rights and so on. I'm telling you, in 50 years, your whole era is going to be universally regarded as a disgrace of history. And the story of America is going to be nothing but a cautionary tale for the nations of the world about how horrifically wrong a country can be. By your lack of integrity, your lack of morality, your lack of honesty, your lack of decency, your lack of humanity, you're going to become nothing but the epitome, the comprehensive reference point for everything that a country must never be. And that ultimately, in my opinion, is what America is going to actually contribute to the world. Nothing but the worst possible example that everyone will commit themselves to never repeat.
After 9 months of genocidal violence under the pretext of trying to eliminate Hamas, now you have Israeli officials who are saying that Hamas is actually an ideology and therefore cannot be eliminated. But it isn't true. It's not true that you can't eliminate Hamas. Of course you can't. Of course Hamas can be eliminated. And in fact, it's quite straightforward. It's very straightforward how to eliminate Hamas, and everyone knows it. When they talk about how it is not practically feasible to eliminate Hamas, the part that they're not saying is that it is not feasible to eliminate Hamas while maintaining the occupation, because ending the occupation would end Hamas. It's incredibly simple. It's very straightforward. If you want to end resistance against occupation, end the occupation. This is not a complicated puzzle. You have no legal right to occupy, and they have every legal right to resist occupation. You have to be indoctrinated to the point of idiocy to not be able to see what's supposed to happen, what the solution is. That's the same goes for Hezbollah, the same goes for the Houthi strikes in the Red Sea. You are literally threatening and you're literally fighting illegally against those who are fighting legally. And if you want those who are fighting legally to stop fighting, well then it's exactly the same as wanting the police to not come after you. Stop committing crimes. You know, when someone tries to make something that is very simple, very complicated, they're just trying to mislead you. And the same goes in the opposite side. There are some things that are complicated, and if someone tries to make them seem simple, then they're also trying to mislead you. In both instances, they're being dishonest. In the first case, they don't want you to see the obvious, because it's against their agenda for you to understand the obvious. And in the second case, they only want you to see what is obvious, without explaining what might not be obvious. This is why you can't exclusively be passive in receiving information. You have to at least participate in the processing of the information you receive, because there are people who will not just be trying to give you something to think about, they're trying to give you what to think. And when it comes to the West, when information is coming from the West, so-called information, that's pretty much all they do. They want to dictate what everyone thinks. They don't want you to think for yourself. Because if you do think for yourself, 9 times out of 10, your conclusions will not be the ones that they want you to have. So like in the case of Gaza, and in the case of Hamas, they simply cannot be honest. And they're having a very hard time getting the lies to be believed anymore. So they have to reframe, and they have to confuse, and they have to obfuscate, and they have to misdirect. And so you have to understand. You have to use your own intelligence to decipher what they're really saying. And when they say, for example, that Hamas cannot be eliminated, what they mean is, we're not going to give up occupation and genocide. That's what they're really saying. So you can also understand, for instance, why nonviolent student protesters are labeled as Hamas supporters, because resistance and opposition to occupation makes you Hamas in their framing. Because they have to frame it in a way that makes their crimes moral and that makes morality criminal. They have to frame it in a way that makes lawlessness legal and lawfulness illegal, which means by extension, support for international law makes you Hamas. Being pro-peace and anti-genocide makes you Hamas. If you uphold the rule of law, then you're Hamas. And basically the only way to not be Hamas is to be a war criminal who supports genocide. And this is the enlightened West. You know, it's no wonder that they have the highest rate of mental and psychological disorders on earth. Because that society is absolutely sadistic towards the mental health of their own people, towards the collective cognition of their own people. You have the villain role in the story of the world, but you see yourself as the hero. You know, a real hero does what is justified, while what you do is justify whatever you want to do. And this contradiction is making everyone in your society sick. I mean, in the richest country on earth, you can't find a person who doesn't believe and who doesn't feel that they're suffering from some sort of trauma. And I believe they are traumatized. How could they not be traumatized? But it's not because of some childhood bully or some toxic relationship or what have you. No. They want you to misidentify the source of your trauma as being one of these very mundane, you know, common unpleasantries of life that everyone deals with, so that you won't actually identify the fact that you are traumatized by your whole so-called civilization. That's what's toxic. Your so-called civilization is toxic. You know, you're gaslit, you're lied to, you're misled, you're miseducated, indoctrinated, and intellectually subjugated with shameless and relentless ferocity, morning, noon, and night. Sickness is health. Health is sickness. Conformity is freedom. Oligarchy is democracy. Despotism is justice. On and on. Your moral compass is a pinwheel where true north is Netflix and chill. Or whatever. Whatever will help numb your conscience from the contradictions and the hypocrisy and the degeneracy and the emptiness of your life. Because meaning and purpose and value have been robbed from you by your so-called civilization. Because you can barely find anything that you were taught to believe that your country stands for that isn't the complete opposite of what your country actually does. But yeah, pay a therapist, you know, pay a therapist so they can make you think that the one who's sick is you and not your society. Therapists are the power structure's first line of defense against revolution. The source of your problem isn't in you, it's all around you. And that's why they want to keep you navel-gazing. That's why American propaganda is failing all around the world, but somehow still works in the United States. Why everyone globally understands what's happening in Gaza and who the criminals are, but in the United States, people can deny the most obvious and the most heinous crimes against humanity and still show their face in public. They can still have careers, they can still hold office and sell record albums and movie tickets. I'm telling you, being pro-Palestinian is the prerequisite for your mental health, for your psychological healing. It's the first step to salvaging your conscience. But being pro-Zionist, pro-genocide, well, I don't think there's any way that you can come back from that. I mean, if you can actually stand there and be okay with the wanton mass murder of 40,000 innocent people, well, you've committed yourself to villainy. You basically hit rock bottom morally and then started digging. And mark my words, that's going to turn into a sinkhole that's going to swallow up your whole society.
Let's talk about why the Democratic Republic of Congo is so important. The DRC is the second largest country in Africa after Algeria. It has 9 neighbors: the Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Zambia, and Angola. That means that the stability of Congo will affect the stability of all these other countries and this entire region. Congo is huge, roughly the size of Western Europe. The UK, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, all of them can fit inside Congo. Congo is also home to 50% of Africa's lakes and rivers. The fertility of this land is unbelievable. It is also home to the Congo Basin and the Congo Rainforest, the lungs of our planet. Very, very important if you believe in climate justice. Now, many of us know that Rwanda and US-backed M23 militia are taking control of coltan-rich towns in eastern Congo, brutalizing the civilians there, displacing millions of people for the benefit of tech giants like Apple, Google, Dell, Microsoft, Tesla. But let's not forget that this entire country is infinitely rich in natural mineral resources. Congo, the DRC, is the fourth largest producer of diamonds in the world, and those diamonds are not benefiting the people of Congo. Those diamonds are not improving the lives of the people of Congo. In Kolwezi in the south, this is a center for copper and cobalt mining. Slavery is going on here. Slavery is going on for these natural resources in many parts of this country. Kinshasa is its capital in the west. It enjoys relative peace and stability. But in a place like Kisangani, people are being displaced. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their homes, have lost their livelihoods, have lost everything because of conflict from mineral resources. Let us not forget that this entire country needs us to speak out for justice, for its people, so that the people of Congo can control their natural resources, can take control of their destiny. Call for peace in Congo, give to humanitarian causes in this country, but more importantly, hold your governments accountable for what is happening in Congo. They are all complicit. All of their wealth rests on the exploitation of the people of the land of Congo. Free Congo.
Western countries like to believe that they have equipped the African continent with the capability to achieve freedom. But today, more than 60 years after the last European countries relinquished their colonial claims, the continent is still riddled with poverty and turmoil. But why so? And have those former masters really gone away? African nations believe that they are still there, but under a different disguise, and grievances between the continent and the West are piling up.
Are you saying that the Chinese or the Russians behave better than us, Westerners, currently?
Oh, absolutely. You don't quite understand African realities. It's astonishing to see how we are very distant in terms of cultures. We cannot understand why you come to give us lessons, for example, on human rights.
One of the main problems is that Western leaders seem to be reluctant to understand African realities. Prime example, Germany and the UK were seeking stricter limits on the import of hunting trophies because of poaching concerns. Seems honorable, right? But they have never had to deal with elephant overpopulation like Botswana.
It is very easy to sit in Berlin and have an opinion about our affairs in Botswana. We are paying the price for preserving these animals for the world. The Greens look at us with contempt.
I want Britons to have a taste of living alongside elephants, which are overwhelming my country. In some areas, there are more of these beasts than people. Elephant numbers, just like those of Scottish stags, have to be controlled. Hunters in the highlands pay to shoot deer and put their antlers on their walls. So why is Britain trying to stop Africa doing the same? Botswana is the most successful country in the world at looking after elephants, buffalo, and lions. We don't want colonial interference from Britain.
Western countries not only fail to understand Africa, they are accused of driving it into economic despair.
The main reason there is no growth in Africa is that the growth factors are neither funded nor understood. Our populations are increasing, but our economies are stunted. The IDA should tell us why they are funding the modern slavery of Africans, and we should address issues like why Africa is producing what it does not consume and consuming what it does not produce.
To keep Africa under its thumb, sanctions on already poverty-ridden areas seems to be something they don't shy away from. Zimbabwe, Uganda, only to name a few. It is said that Zimbabwe lost over $150 million last year, all because of the sanctions imposed by the EU and the United States. And Uganda was punished over its harsh anti-LGBTQ laws as Washington withdrew Kampala's preferential trade status last year.
It cannot be right, let alone a healthy basis for conducting international relations or building friendship, for a country, however mightily it views itself, to slander innocent nationals of other nations while also maligning those same nations for daring to be independent and sovereign.
It is therefore unfortunate that the World Bank and other actors dare to want to coerce us into abandoning our faith, culture, principles, and sovereignty using money. They really underestimate all Africans.
So why is the West so interested in Africa when, as they claim, human rights are so bad? Well, one key reason, natural resources. Take a look at the DRC, for instance. The country produces more than 60% of the world's supply of cobalt, which is mined in its copper belt. Tens of thousands of those miners are children. Some die from cobalt mining accidents every year. Some even face sexual assault and forced evictions. Western companies are among those that have been sued by the DRC. But justice was not delivered as the court sided with the likes of Apple and Google.
A strong incentive to avoid any transparency with their suppliers, even as they promise the public they have zero-tolerance policies against child labor. We are far from finished seeking accountability.
But what's the growing danger in Africa, according to the United States? Just take a guess.
In line with the 2022 National Defense Strategy, the Department of Defense will engage with African partners to expose and highlight the risks of negative PRC and Russian activities in Africa.
Over $300 million were requested by the U.S. State Department this year for the fight against Russia and China in the African continent. Even though some African countries are aware that continued alignment with Moscow carries the risk of isolation from global markets by the West, they feel there's more to gain than to lose.
Russia helped very, very much. We had a coup attempt in 2020 before the elections. If it were not for the Russian military, our state would not exist at the moment. Now our citizens can sleep peacefully, at least in the villages.
I would like to offer my congratulations to you, Mr. President, because all of the decisions that you've taken, you've made, you're not going to regret them because we have managed to secure great success. Not just for the President of the Russian Federation who has invited us, but it's also a success for African countries because if Russia is a winner, everyone is the winner.
Niger, which is waging a historic struggle for the reconquest of its sovereignty and its development, knows how to count on your personal commitment and cooperation with the Russian Federation to succeed in its patriotic fight.
On this Africa Day, African citizens have gradually come to reject Western policies to the point of blaming the former colonizers for many of the region's ills. It's about cutting links to the past and embracing a new direction in the future. Noluvuyo Kunge, RT, Pretoria.
Well, the situation in Kenya with the protests. Well, first of all, we'll say that the president of Kenya has long been regarded as a Western client, if not a puppet. And that's not without reason. He has regularly ingratiated himself with the West. He has been pursuing neoliberal economic policies within Kenya that have made the lives of the people increasingly miserable. And so this has resulted, predictably, in protests that began peacefully and turned violent because of the police. The police shot at peaceful protesters. Now, they're calling for the removal of the president of Kenya, William Ruto. Now, what I would say about that situation is that it's similar to the situation before it in Sudan, and it's similar to the situation before Sudan in Egypt, where the people are protesting against the government for policies that the government is implementing, which the government is held hostage to implement in favor of multinational corporations and international lenders. Chief among them, the International Monetary Fund. In fact, the bill that stirred the protests in Kenya initially is basically an IMF bill, a structural adjustment reform, an austerity measure that is being demanded by the IMF of the Ruto government. So my opinion, as was my opinion with regards to Sudan, when Omar Bashir was being blamed for the economic policies that were the austerity measures, the austerity economic policies, the neoliberal policies that he was implementing under coercion in Sudan, and the protests against Sisi because of the neoliberal policies that he was implementing under coercion. My position has always been that these leaders, these politicians, exist to take the blame for the policies that they're implementing on behalf of private sector power. That's why they exist. That's why I call them effigies, because they exist to implement the policies that will make them unpopular, and then they'll take the brunt of the unpopularity. They'll take the brunt of public anger, and then they'll be removed, but the policies will remain, because the source of the policies is the private sector, is the international private sector. It's the OCGFC. It's the Western multinational corporations and lenders, financial institutions, and so forth. Again, specifically, the International Monetary Fund. This is your problem. And now, who is the International Monetary Fund doing what it's doing? Who is it doing it for? It's not doing it for Kenya. We all know that. And it wasn't doing it for Sudan, and it's not doing it for Egypt. So who are they doing it for? And when you identify who they're doing it for, then those are the private sector players, those are the power brokers that it makes more sense to me that the population should be protesting and should be directing their activism and their opposition towards those actors on the political and economic scene in Kenya, not the government. Now, I'm not speaking up in favor of William Ruto. There's a lot of problems with his government, certainly, without question, just as there were problems with the government of Omar Bashir, and there's certainly a multitude of problems with the government of Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. But when you're talking about specifically the way that they're managing the economy, you have to understand that they are not the managers of the economy. Their lenders are the managers of the economy, and the lenders are managing the economy in such a way as to benefit Western multinational corporations. So, for example, in Kenya, you should look at Coca-Cola. You should look at General Electric. You should look at Standard Chartered. You should look at Barclays Bank. Look at Safaricom, Nestle, IBM, and look at Toyota. These are the beneficiaries of the economic policies. These are the beneficiaries of neoliberalism. They're the ones who are holding the government hostage. And they're doing it by means of the IMF. So your president, and again, whether it's Kenya or whether it's Sudan or whether it's Egypt or whether it's Pakistan and many other places around the world, and increasingly you can say the same thing about countries in Europe, these governments, these politicians are hostages, and the policies that they're implementing are essentially like when you see a hostage being forced to read a list of demands. You don't get angry at the hostage for the demands that he's making on behalf of the hostage taker. And that's what the government does. That's what your president does. That's what your prime minister is doing. They're just reading the list of demands that they have been told that they that must be met in order for them to not be eliminated. And the one that's going to be eliminated here isn't the president, it's your whole economy. Because the IMF has considerable power to sabotage and cripple your economy if you don't do what they say. That's why it's better for you if you never get involved with them in the first place. And this is why I've said time and time again that it's much better for Muslim countries, for countries in the global south, for countries in Africa, to do business with China, to do business with Russia, while they still can, while those countries are still interested in investing in Africa, in the global south, Latin America, and the Muslim world, and so on, while they still have the money to spend, you ought to take the money from them rather than taking the money from the IMF. Because the IMF and Western lenders generally are not actually interested in you paying them back. They don't want you to pay them back. Because when they loan you money, they're calling it a loan, and you think it's a loan, but what they're actually doing is buying you. So they don't want the money back. They want what they bought, which is your whole country.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Intervlog. I say this is Intervlog, and I am here once more. I am here because there is one important information that I brought to you today, and this information is unbelievable. The information is something every African leader should adopt. And you would ask me, what is that information? Well, the information is coming from Burkina Faso, and it is about the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré. yesterday, being 25th of July, 2024, handed over mobile clinics, vehicles, and equipment. This means mobile hospitals. In order to explain it very well, is a vehicle being equipped with hospital equipment. Many things that can happen in hospital can actually happen in those vehicles. That is exactly what it is. And what is the reason of Burkina Faso leader handing over mobile vehicle to the Ministry of Health? The reason is actually the reason I'm here as well. One of the reasons is that since Ibrahim Traoré took over, things have progressed so rapidly that if you go to Burkina Faso, you won't recognize Burkina Faso anymore. There is development everywhere you go in Burkina Faso. Infrastructural development. And that development cannot get to every local government because there are some typical villages that problems still exist in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso leaders are building hospitals everywhere. But the point is that they cannot wait until hospitals are built everywhere before the Burkina Faso began to enjoy the effect of their good governance. So the leader happened to buy the mobile clinics and send them to different local governments. This mobile clinic is for checking of fever, malaria, cancers, pregnancy, test of different things, and also for the treatment and the solution. And this is beautiful. As you can see it, vehicles and machines are everywhere here in the field. That very day, Ibrahim Traoré came with a different vehicle from the one people used to know him with, which is Land Rover Defender 2001, meaning that Ibrahim Traoré has changed his vehicle. He is now using a different vehicle, and this vehicle is 2011 Toyota 70 Series. In secondhand, it cost $10,000. Now, what surprised people most is that when he came to commission the trucks and some SUV and pickups that Burkina Faso government procure for doctors and nurses, he came with 2011 Toyota 70 Series, which it cost us $10,000 in secondhand. And among of the vehicle he commissioned, we had Toyota Land Cruiser 2024, new ones. And he refused to use those Toyota Land Cruiser. Instead, he gave it to the doctors. He said doctors need it more than him because these doctors will be entering villages. Some of their service need speed. They go to need vehicle with his speed, like an ambulance. But he, as a president, this one is okay for him. He chose 2011 Toyota 70 Series, as you are seeing it here. He came down from the Toyota 70 Series to commission new vehicles for doctors. Each one of those vehicles he commissioned can buy 20 of the one he is using. Each one of any vehicle he commissioned today can buy 20 of the one that the president has. Is this not unbelievable? Improving healthcare provision, mobile clinics and cold chain equipment for quality care for Burkinabe, Ouagadougou, July 25, 2024. The president of Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, handed over this Thursday morning to the Ministry of Health and Public Hygiene 15 mobile clinics, cold chain equipment, office equipment, rolling logistics for the improvement of the provision of health care in our country. The 15 equipped mobile care units, mobile clinics, are intended for public health establishments, EPS. They are equipped with equipment for specialized care such as mammography, ultrasound, colonoscopy. These mobile clinics, a first major experiment by the Burkinabe government, will be deployed to villages, the countryside, and certain peripheral areas of cities to allow populations to have ultrasound scans, to do cervical cancer and breast cancer screenings, and to take charge of children's care. The objective is to bring care closer to the most vulnerable populations. These are mobile clinics that will be in all regions of Burkina Faso, and that is the vision, so be able to offer quality care to Burkinabe wherever they are, declared Captain Ibrahim Traoré. As for the second batch of materials and equipment handed over by the head of state, it consists of 12 station wagon vehicles, 11 pickup vehicles, 13 refrigerated pickup vehicles, 1,900 refrigerators with solar kits, 110 electric freezers, 14 generators, 11 cold rooms, and 835 tablets. These cold chain equipment and tablets will help ensure the quality of vaccines at all levels of the health system. We had difficulty in the Health and Social Promotion Centers, CSPS, in being able to preserve the vaccines. The vehicles must transport these vaccines to the solar refrigerators that will be placed in all the CSPS in Burkina Faso so that the vaccines can be preserved in order to effectively fight against certain diseases. Rejoiced the president of Faso. The head of state took the opportunity in this period of malaria to invite the populations to be more responsible and to raise awareness. The fight against this disease begins with the destruction of breeding grounds. Today, everyone in their neighborhood must be able to do a minimum to clean up their living environment, said the president of Faso. For the Minister of Health and Public Hygiene, Dr. Robert Lucien Jean-Claude Cargogo. This is a great day for the health system. He expressed his gratitude to the president of Faso for this innovative and far-reaching government decision and invited the population to use this equipment rationally and for health providers to get involved so that all Burkinabe can have adequate care. All the equipment was acquired by the government with the support of its partners. Now, the major reason why I am here is not actually to show you what is going on, but for the leaders in Africa to learn. How many times have we seen African leaders doing what Ibrahim Traoré is doing here? Most of our African leaders have neglected healthcare to the extent that whenever they themselves are sick, they would travel abroad to receive treatment. And if you ask them, they say, because we don't have good hospitals in Africa. If you ask them, why didn't you build the hospital? Some of them will say they don't have money. But when you look through your window to check the type of vehicles they have, that these people have vehicles that cost more than $200,000. Go and check vehicles that presidents in Africa have. There is no president in Africa that does not have more than 4 Toyota Land Cruiser SUV. Some president has 15. President in West Africa has 40 SUV. That money, it can build any type of hospital. But the president never wanted to do that. Some of this president in Africa, they will come into power. Apart from the Toyota Land Cruiser, they will approve for themselves. They will still go and approve Toyota Land Cruiser for the lawmakers, senators, governors, local government chairmen. In some countries, the numbers exceed 1,000 pesos. Each one of these Toyota Land Cruisers costs $200,000. If you multiply $200,000 by the numbers they are using to buy the Toyota Land Cruiser, if you multiply 200,000 by 1,000 or 400 pieces, then you know how much your president is squandering for no reason. If your president has 10 Land Cruiser, escorting him, multiply that 10 Land Cruiser by $200,000. You know how much your president is squandering. Why didn't he use it to build a hospital? And one funny part is that when he, the president, has misused the money, used the money to buy a vehicle, refused to build hospital for the poor, and for him, the president, as well. When the president is sick, do you know what happens? He will fly abroad to treat himself, and when he gets better, he come back and be driving the Land Cruisers. What about the poor? When the poor are sick, can they travel abroad? This type of thing is actually called greed. A president that does not think about the health of the masses should not suppose to travel abroad to treat himself because we are all the same. You cannot use the money that belongs to the country to acquire Toyota Land Cruisers. You will be driving Toyota Land Cruiser. Your wife will be driving Toyota Land Cruiser. Your escort will be driving Toyota Land Cruiser. You will still go and approve Toyota Land Cruisers to lawmakers, to governors. And when you people are sick, either your wife, your son, your daughter, the lawmakers, when you are sick, you will travel abroad to treat yourself. What about the poor who are in the country? When they are sick, where do they go to? This is the reason I am applauding Ibrahim Traoré. This is the type of president you need in Africa. If you have a president that will be approving Toyota Land Cruiser SUV for everybody, and some of them are even approving for private jets, approving for everything, helicopters, and so on and so forth, and when they are sick, they will fly abroad to treat themselves. Don't vote for such president. Any president who don't think about our health, That president is not good for you. He is ruling you in order for you to take care of him. That is the reason he's there. If his leadership is for the masses, he would have done what Ibrahim Traoré did. Look at Ibrahim Traoré thinking about the children of Burkina Faso, thinking about the mothers with breast cancer, thinking about the people in the village who are having malaria and fever. Well, I stop here. Thank you very much for watching. This is the entire vlog.